Hey guys, Mike the Caveman Kuhn here again from Paleo Primal Long Island and MikeTheCaveman.com. Now, I'm going to try and get this done real quick here because as you see the weather isn't really the best we want right now. So in between the rain, I'm going to sneak in here. So today on this wonderful Memorial Day, hope you guys are taking care of remembering the importance of this day. Yes, a lot of people use it just to barbecue, but remember, there's actually some important stuff there. That being said, today's question comes from my good friend Joe Hoffman, and his question related to a company called Beyond Meat. I figured, a lot of people are trying to barbecue today. Let's talk about the importance of actual meat. Okay, so this is a fun one. The Beyond Meat concept is a vegan alternative to meat. And the idea is creating the perfect meat without actually having to use animals. Now, the way they do that is through a combination of different proteins and fibers to create not only the taste but the texture of meat itself, because that's a major issue. People try and have meat substitutes and they either taste horrible or they don't have the right consistency. A tofu platter, they might make it taste like chicken, but it's not going to still feel like chicken, so people don't have that same taste and mouth. It's not the same association, so your brain doesn't really process it the same way. Now, first of all, why are we doing that? That one right there really blows my mind. I understand you care about animals. It's great. I do too. That's why I'm such a big proponent on grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, all right? If the animal has a quality life, it's going to be healthier for you, but you also have the moral satisfaction of knowing that you contributed to a sustainable process, okay? So rather than trying to avoid death, unfortunately, in order for you to live, something else must die. That's just a fact of life, okay? So it's super important that it lives under the best conditions possible, okay? So using the moral argument of saying we shouldn't eat meat because it's bad for the animals, no. Make the right choice, okay? Always select grass-fed, pasture-raised animals, organic ideally. Now, that being said, let's dive into this Beyond Meat. So this meat, and I use that term very loosely, it's composed of various plant proteins, okay? They use some pea protein, not too bad, amaranth, not too bad, but then they generally will also use soy protein isolate. Now, soy has a host of issues with it, the biggest of which are that it's phytoestrogenic, meaning it is a plant estrogen source, so it can mess with your hormones. It is goitrogenic, meaning that it can mess with your thyroid. So if you have any kind of hormonal or thyroid hormone-related issues, soy is an awful idea, okay? A lot of people try and harken back to Asian populations where they use a lot of soy, but it's not the same soy. They use it more as a condiment, and they will also be fermenting it more often than not. Miso, natto, those are fermented soy, and they're not the bulk. They're not trying to take it and form an actual meat. They're not forming a full meal out of that soy, okay? Beyond that, they also have longer exposure. Like we talk about with dairy, Northern Europeans do better on dairy, just as Asian populations do better on soy and on rice. They have a longer exposure to it, all right? They've had more evolutionary pressure on them. So soy protein isolate, terrible, no good, all right? They have maltodextrin in it. Now, maltodextrin oftentimes is either coming from wheat or it's coming from GMO corn, all right? It's a sugar that's processed in order to give the texture feel as well as a little bit of stabilization. Now, regarding the sourcing, most of their ingredients will specifically say non-GMO. In the case of the maltodextrin, they do not specifically say it's non-GMO. So where it's coming from? Probably GMO corn. All right, no good. Yeast. They have yeast extract. Now, there are some super beneficial yeasts, but if we're talking about yeast extract, you're generally talking about a source of free glutamic acid. A more commonly known way of that, monosodium glutamate, okay? So if you have any kind of neuroexcitatory issues, any kind of brain issues, that is a terrible idea. You don't want to be getting that MSG in, all right? Some of them, not all of them though, also have Carrageenan in them. Now, Carrageenan, you may have known that from when you were a kid and there was the chocolate milk and you saw, and then someone told you that the Carrageenan is coming from seaweed, and you're like, ew, there's seaweed in my chocolate milk. Well, seaweed in and of itself is actually really good for you. Dulse, kelp, great sources of iodine, Great sources of nutrition. That being said, Carrageenan, it's processed, okay? If it's, you see that in your food, whether it's in your dairy or it's in your vegan alternatives, it's going to be coming as a stabilizer, and it's severely processed. Now, there are two main types. There is degraded, and there is just the non-degraded, okay? Depends on whether you're using an alkali or an acidic mixture to process it. Without getting too deep into that, the acidic version, well, those actually are used in research to induce inflammation, to induce cancer, okay? That is not approved for food additives. The non-degraded version, they use an alkali, which is a base. They use that to process it. However, once you eat something, it has to go through right into your stomach. Your stomach is full of acid, okay? So what do you think happens to that Carrageenan as soon as it gets to your stomach? It gets degraded. And what do they use degraded Carrageenan for? To induce inflammation, okay? So you can induce inflammation and an innate immune response. It leads to immune dysregulation, all right? What does immune dysregulation do? Well, there's four ends of it. If there's an underactive response to an external, to a virus, bacteria, you get an infection. If there's an overreactive response to an external stimuli, you get an allergy, okay? Or a food sensitivity. If there's an overreaction to an internal stimuli, you get cancer. And if there is an overreaction to an external stimuli, you'll get an autoimmune disease, arthritis and lupus and all those fun ones, all right? So, going back to the point, that Carrageenan, once it hits your stomach acid, it's going to get degraded and it's going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause some type of immune dysregulation, and that is a major issue. One more major issue we have is the canola oil, okay? Canola oil, it's just never going to be healthy, no matter how you process it, okay? The name of canola oil, the proper name for the seed from which it comes, is actually called rapeseed oil. That's some bad PR right there. So they had to make sure they changed it because it was developed in Canada. It became canola oil. Now, the name doesn't really change its health benefits or not. But generally speaking, most canola oil is GMO, okay? Without getting too deep in whether that's really an issue or not, we're going to step that to the side. The fact of the matter is, most of it's processed with hexane, okay? Most of it's GMO. Theirs is being declared non-GMO and expeller pressed, meaning they're not using the chemical processing, they're not using the hexane, great. They're not using GMO rape seeds, great. But the fact of the matter is, it is a highly oxidatable oil, okay? It goes rancid like that. So you have that in your food, it's going to go rancid in your body. From there, it's going to be oxidized, okay? And when it does that, that's when we're talking about fat being bad. Saturated fat is less oxidatable, okay? It does not get oxidized quite as easily. It's saturated, okay? That's better for you overall. I know it's a crazy concept, but overall, you want your fats to be saturated. You want them to be able to be less oxidized. It's when those cholesterols get oxidized that they start to become a problem. And it's that cholesterol goes out in relation to inflammation. So that Carrageenan is going to cause inflammation. The soy is going to mess up your hormones and your thyroid, your sex hormones and your thyroid. That canola oil is going to damage your cells as well. It's going to be incorporated into your phospholipid membranes of your cells, and they're going to be oxidized like that. No good, okay? So these products, terrible. No, absolutely not. There is no chance you should be doing Beyond Meat. At this point, humans, we are not beyond meat. There is no purpose to it. We are not herbivores. We are obligate omnivores, okay? Our system are designed to incorporate both plant and animal matter. That's it, okay? We're not a cat. We're not a cow. You're something in between, okay? We're not eating either. It's both. Make sure you're getting some quality vegetables, quality fruits. Get in some grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic animals, particularly ruminants for the grass-fed. The rest just pasture-raised for your poultry, for your fish. You want wild-caught. Make sure you're getting all of that, and you're going to be on your way to a better life. All right, guys? Like I said, this is Mike the Caveman Kuhn. You can follow me over at Instagram and on Twitter at Mike the Caveman. You can find me on Paleo Primal Long Island on Facebook or at MikeTheCaveman.com. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe, share it with your friends. That being said, I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful Memorial Day.